They say you always remember your worst failures in pin-sharp detail. That thudding silence after you expose your soul. The scrape of your shoes as you leave the stage. The heat crawling up your skin while everyone's trying not to meet your eyes. I remember every minute of my humiliation that night at the Shoreditch Arts Centre, hunched under false lights in a second-hand blazer. Pitching the designs I'd stitched in my box room to a semicircle of fashion investors who looked like they'd rather be at dinner. It was supposed to be my moment. I had worked for months, eating eggs on toast and drawing after midnight, hunched over pins and battered sketchbooks, convincing myself my line-structured jackets, bright embroidery, metallic threads, wasn't just personal obsession. That it mattered. That it was fresh. That anyone could see how much of myself I'd bled into every piece. I started off shaky but determined, voice wavering as I pulled each piece onto the mannequin. I'm Danny Tate. My brand is called Eightfold Think Wraps and Copper Stitches, 90s edge but grown-up, wearable armor, practical but high impact. I went on, explaining how I sourced fabric from dead stock in Peckham, how my nan taught me to sew before I could write my name. This is London, right? I just want people to feel bold enough to take up space. I tried another joke, forced a smile. But the questions, when they came, were all the same. Who's your market, really? Why should this work now? Isn't this just streetwear with embroidery? No one smiled. No one touched the clothes, just regarded them like museum relics and shifted in their padded chairs. I felt the blush rising to my ears. Something inside me curled up tight and angry. I snapped out a reply, maybe too sharp. I spent 3 years working in retail. I know what real people want to wear. I made this for them, not just influencers with stylist friends. A woman with ice blonde hair folded her hands. Danny, we all love a dream, but investors need more than that. This isn't commercial, and the styling, it's a bit much. Her laugh tittered across the room. Another suit stifled a smile. The room was silent, except for someone's phone clicking. My hands started shaking. I tucked them under my armpits. I wanted to scream. Instead, I mumbled thanks, gathered my samples, and left the stage. Outside, I called my mom from a cold bench overlooking traffic and ugly bricked flats. She picked up on the third ring, and her voice was already tense, prepared. She'd never understood why I didn't want to just take a safe job in admin like everyone else. "Did you win, love?" she asked, voice flat. No, they didn't get it. I tried to laugh, but it caught in my throat. They said it was all too much. She sighed, that winded, exasperated sound. "Danny, you worked so hard. Maybe you need to be a bit more realistic. You know, there's jobs going at the council. Your Auntie June can get you an interview." "Yeah, I know." I hung my head. "I just thought, never mind. I'll come see you next week." "You do that. Maybe it's a sign to put it to bed now, eh?" Her voice softened. "No more of this fashion nonsense. It's not for people like us." I nodded, even though she couldn't see. "Yeah, okay." I ended the call and stuffed my sketches back into my duffel. The ache in my lungs was rage, pure and hot, but restrained. A slow-burning shame tethered to something much older than just tonight. A lifetime of my family shaking their heads at my odd clothes, my pipe dreams, telling me the world doesn't have space for people like us to be creative. That night, I didn't sleep much. I thought about all the times Mum rolled her eyes at my thrifted boots or Dad called me the dramatic one whenever I showed him a new design. The way neighbors in our estate watched me lugging meters of cut fabric up the stairs, whispering, "She'll come down to earth soon enough." The laughter at family parties, cousins miming runways and tripping over each other's feet, pretending to be me. It hurt. But what cut deeper was the fear that maybe they were right. But I couldn't let go. Instead, I retreated further. Days, I temped at a call center near Old Street. Nights, I sewed. Some weeks, I couldn't bring myself to answer Mom's calls because I didn't want to hear her disappointment or forced optimism. I stopped going to family events. Every Christmas was a tug of war. Dad would fix me with a sad smile, hand me an envelope with a 50-pound note, and say, in case the design thing doesn't work out. My cousin Sean passed me hiring flyers for courier jobs. My aunt winked, found you a nice accountant if you ever want to stop playing make-believe. I kept my sketches hidden. I told myself the laughter would die down if I just kept my head low. But the rage pulsed under everything. Every snipe, every veiled suggestion, every lecture about being sensible. I told myself I was working underground like some wartime codebreaker. I would show them, someday. I posted my line online anyway. Not even a full website, just a dozen rough photos on Instagram and a Starling bank link for orders. 3 weeks later, someone DM'd. Hey, are you available for custom tailoring? I saw your orange blazer. It's sick. Turns out, she was a stylist's assistant named Ren, working with bands nobody'd heard of. I dragged my battered sewing machine and 2 rolls of brocade through the overground to Hackney and fitted her in her tiny flat. She texted later. My client wore it at the Roundhouse gig. Everyone asked about it. You need a proper site. That tipped something. A few pieces sold, then a dozen. Ren posted a TikTok. Sales doubled. A German magazine DM'd. My email pinged. Word of mouth built. I took late trains home, bleary-eyed but charged, the rage sharpening into something like reckless hope. But it was never steady feast, then famine. Hundreds of likes 1 week, dead silence the next. I couldn't afford PR or expensive booths at shows. I catched my own jeans, poured battery acid into my nerves, and kept sketching at dawn before every shift. Years scraped by, each one layering more disappointment, more resolve. My parents stopped asking. They figured I'd burn out. But I held tight, knuckles white, mouth set, slicing patterns alone in cramped flats, feeding the fire that was half pride, half vengeance. Real breakthrough snuck in when I least expected it. A message from an editor at a British fashion site. Your jackets are everywhere in East. Can we feature you? Photo shoot at my home. She edited out the mold stains on the wall, shot close-ups of my hands. The article spiraled. 6 small designers reshaping London. A dancer wore my blue trench in a shoot. A Guardian blogger tagged me in a viral review. I sewed after work until dawn. My hands blistered and stitched raw. But every order was a small victory. Sometimes I grinned so hard it hurt. Sometimes I laughed alone in my kitchen. Sometimes I just sat and wept with rage and stubbornness and gratitude. I never gave up the anger. I carried it behind my ribs. This is for them. For the doubters. For my parents who gave up dreams for mortgage payments and instead I poured everything into a dozen pieces, copper-foiled coats, wrap dresses with indigo silk and burnished zippers, trousers wide and sharp, embroidery like fists. I cut costs everywhere, instant noodles, DIY sets, help from Ren, who cheered me through caffeine jitters and panic attacks. Show day, a warehouse by the Thames, crowd buzzing, humid with sweat and excitement. I watched my models' friends and ex-baristas, no professionals, pace the runway in my clothes, faces lit up. Chins high. Audience members snapped photos, clapped, shouted. One buyer slipped me a card. Let's talk distribution. Another hugged me, his eyes shining. Never seen anything like this. You're going somewhere. After I wandered outside, breathless and shaking, and sobbed by the loading dock. People hugged me. My friends held my hands, bought cold chicken from a corner shop, and toasted me with cheap Prosecco on the curb. That night, I DM'd my mom. Might have some good news soon. She rang straight away. What is it? Are you okay? I did a show, Mom. People seem to like it. She paused, let out a sigh, old irritation, edged with hope. Well, that's nice, love, as long as you're happy. I hung up, staring at the wall. But for once, the old resentment softened. I could feel the world turning under me, rushing forward. The next weeks were chaos. Press interviews, emails, more orders than I could fill alone. I hired Sean's mate Terry to package samples, paid Ren a cut to handle socials. My day job shrank to 4 days. Then I let it go completely. I rented a boxy studio in Dalston. I bought proper mannequins. I pitched my parents again, invited them to see the new place. They always found excuses. Dad's working late, save it for next time, yeah? The neighbors caught on. Saw your face in the paper. Mrs. Ahmed from Flat 2 winked every time I passed. At Tesco, a cashier said, "You're the jacket girl, right?" It was like watching my old world fall piece by piece. When Vogue UK wrote, "Eightfold may be the boldest voice in British street tailoring," I nearly choked on my tea. My phone flooded. Even Auntie June sent a